Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to have a quick look at some PS2 emulation on the INEO AirPlus 1215U. So as you can see here, I'm using the new ISpace 2.0 and I've set up my own personal profile with a quiet fan profile, so it'll run a little bit warmer but it's almost silent, and I'm generally speaking just targeting the low 30s for most of the PC games I'm playing, which means I can use quite a low TDP. But for the PS2 emulation, I'm just going to whack it up to the AAA basically, game settings, and as you'll soon hear, the fan speed speeds right up. So we'll turn that off just now, and I'm going to just play through some little scenes in some PS2 games here that I think will make a good test basically. So we'll start off with a little bit of, well, Ratchet Clank. Seeing as there's a new Ratchet Clank game out, let's play a little bit of the original. So I always start it in windowed mode, and that's targeting 33 FPS, so it looks like it may still be using my, there you go, it's now jumped up. So I always open it in Windows mode and then I just double click to full screen it. Now I'm using widescreen hacks on here. I'll just turn this light off. That makes things a bit easier to see. So as you can see, this looks really good. So settings wise, what I'm running is 720p on the panel itself, and in graphics I have set up as borderless full screen, widescreen settings on. I've got the widescreen hacks turned on, and we're running it at 2x native, so 720p. So I have in Windows I have the panel set to 720p, and we're running the game at 720p, and I think that works out quite well. And I have to say, it looks really good. So I've got this game on PS2, and it doesn't look this good on the PS2, I have to say. As you can see here, we're pulling the full 15 watts. Now we could probably drop that a little, but we're not gonna, because I think it runs pretty well at this. And as you can see, absolutely locked at 60, frame time graph is absolutely solid. We are discharging the battery at 23 watts there, so you know you're only going to get a couple hours battery life at that. Well, it looks pretty good, doesn't it? So what we could do is we could drop that performance setting a little bit. So let's drop it down to 11 watts and see how it goes. Now we might see some dips now. Yeah, I forgot the controls are reversed here. It's not made any difference at all to performance. Occasional little spikes in the frame time graph, but really not much. So there we go. Drop that down to 18 watts use now. So let's just drop this power a little bit more. Now this is different depending on the games. Some of them will definitely need more power. You see that it's dropped down to mixed, well below 69. When you drop it down to 9 watts, that's just a little bit too far. Let's pop up to 10 and see what happens now. And it's still mostly managing. So that's still running pretty well. Now, we've not seen a huge drop in the power draw, just a little bit, down to 17 watts total discharge. And it is dipping down into the 50s there now and then. So personally, I would probably just keep it locked about 10 watts. And that would be about 18 watts total discharge. So you're still looking at a good couple of hours worth of gaming. At 720p, I think I've got FXAA turned on as well, so that's why it looks so good. I think that looks it's really playable, I have to say. I think at this point we'll save. And we will move on to a little bit of Outrun 2006. So save as state. So here we are in Outrun 2006. Game looks fantastic still 720p we're running that. FXAA, widescreen hack in place, and we're still running 10 watts. Now as you can see, we're not getting the full 60 FPS. So we'll just quickly pull up the performance metrics and bump that up to 12 and see what happens. There you go, that's settling down to 60 FPS, so occasional dip down to the mid 50s there. It was as low as 50 there in fact. So I know for a fact this runs perfectly fine at the 15 watts. We'll just pop that up to, we'll just pop up to 13, 14 in fact, there we go. That should be enough I think. There you go, so 14 watts, pretty much locked at 60 now. 720p as I say, with a few little tweaks in place like widescreen. This emulation is just brilliant. Now I was going to do a video on PS3 emulation, but I have found the PS3 emulation is really not very good. There just isn't sufficient cores on this little i3, I don't think. Doesn't matter how much I tweak it. The games mostly will load okay, but then when it comes to actually running them, they don't run so great. But PS2 and platforms from around about the same era, no problem at all. Let's move over to the next game. So next up, a bit of Wipeout Fusion. Again, we're still running this at 1080p. A little bit of FXAA in force, and we are running the widescreen setup again. So as you can see there, it's dipping down to below 60 FPS, but we're currently running 10 watts, so I think that's the problem here. So let's bump that up to 12 watts. See if that helps it stay at stable 60, and it appears to have resolved that issue. So, well, there's a big dip there, mind you. That was not great. So I think at that point we'll just bump it full 15 watts. So there is still the occasional dip here and there. Mostly runs at 60. But occasional dips to the upper 50s. And that's at 15 watts. Now you could run a less than native resolution, but I think at 720p this looks pretty good. Oh dear. My driving, not quite so good. Okay, over to the next game. Or up next, Capcom vs SNK 2, Mark of the Millennium, 2001. I have to say, this plays pretty well as well. Now we're just left at full 15 watts. What we'll find here though is the gameplay is great. I'm no good at fighting games. So again, we're pulling quite a lot from the battery. We're pulling nearly 22 watts. And that's just at the loading screen, but I'll stay roughly the same in-game. As you can see, rock solid at 60 as I get my backside handed to me. Can't even stay on my feet. Hey, destroyed. But as you can see, another game that runs like a dream. 720p, 15 watts we're pulling. We could drop that down to 12. Let's see how we go on with that. Still stuck at 12? Or still stuck at 60 FPS, I should say. Let's drop that a little bit further. Let's call it 10. Still stuck at 60 there, so let's drop it down to 8. And I think this might be pushing it a bit, but well, no. Still seems to be playing just well. Youch. How much further can we drop this? 6, do we think? There you go, so 6. It starts to dip. Back up to 7. As you hear, the audio starts to really slow down. There you go, 7 watts. 7 watts, we can do 60. Ow. Bang. So, 7 watts. Capcom versus SNK. Plays great. We'll do one last game. So again, we're running this at 720p and we are running 15 watts TDP. So as you can see, initially it's not actually pulling the full 15 watts and there's a little bit of latency there, but it's kind of settled down. But once it gets going, it runs really well. Now I've played through a few stages already and gone back to the start just for this bit of footage. But yeah, it runs really well. Now occasionally you will get a slowdown. But by and large it runs really well. Yeah, there was a bit of a slowdown to the mid 40s. But it soon sped back up. Now some games, like I said earlier, some games are quite happy at lower wattages and some games really push it. And this is one of those games. So it seems when you go into loading up new areas, it definitely slows down. Okay, so I think I've shown how the performance is. As you see again, as we move into a new area, it slows down. Now, if you ran this at maybe 1 times, it would run fine. But running it 2 times, maybe it's a little bit too much for it. And we could try checking that and change that down. Just nip into settings and we'll go into graphics. And we'll change rendering down from 2 times down to, let's see, just 1.5. I think that'll make a difference. See, nipping back in here, it still slows down. I think it's maybe just a particularly tricky game to emulate. I'm not sure, but I think that's proving how well emulation works though. So, thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye for now. Ouch. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.